My dead ex-boyfriend uploaded his consciousness online, and he's stalking me. Any woman who has ever spurned a man's advances already knows my story, but rejecting someone you have known and loved is even more perilous than rejecting a stranger. Edward and I dated for 6 months. He was an exceptional man in so many ways, but his contemptible side was signalled by numerous red flags. I broke up with him, and Edward wouldn't accept that. His relentless pursuit began. The monstrous man had veiled his true evil for so many months. He must have been aching to free it. His vengeance was savage and unyielding. Threatening social media posts, candid photos of me, an emailed schedule of my family's movements. A restraining order did nothing to stop him. Nevertheless, after months of fear, the horrendous stalking came to a bitter end. In December of 2022, Edward tragically froze to death in his snow-covered, beaten-up, unheated Ford Mustang. He had been waiting outside my house for hours at the blistering height of winter. A neighbour found him in the morning. Cards on the table. Edward wasn't even his real name, and I'm not exactly sure why I'm protecting his identity, given that he's dead. I'm still scared of him. Understandable, given that even death hasn't halted his heinous hunt. Edward was a technological wizard. That was his true love in life. He called himself an innovator, not a programmer, an artist. During the final month of our relationship, as I started to doubt the man's ethical compass, he became obsessed with the idea of the human soul. Artificial intelligence bored him. The future, he said, would involve a mesh of man and machine. Immortality. He said he could upload the human consciousness to a computer. Edward didn't invent that concept, of course. Mind uploading is a well-documented hypothetical among scientists and philosophers alike. He's watched too many sci-fi films, I thought. But science fiction often becomes reality, doesn't it? In terms of programming, it may be impossible to upload the human consciousness to a computer. But Edward's research went beyond that. He was ranting and raving about something called grey code, an underground programming language of occult fanatics. His eerie obsession didn't faze me, in all honesty. I would have endured the plight of the suffering artist, had he not struck me across the face on one particular evening. Physical abuse was the line. Edward apologised profusely, of course, but the longer I ignored him, the more violent his text messages grew. After his death last month, I was relieved that the torture had ceased, but then awful things started happening. Nice sunset, Natasha. That was Edward's comment on a recent Instagram picture of me. My friends flooded my DMs, asking whether I thought Edward's account had been hacked. Obviously. What a stupid question. The man was dead. It had to be somebody's perverse prank. But I blocked Edward's account before he died, which made the whole ordeal quite traumatising for me. I contacted Instagram about somebody bypassing the site's security system. A member of staff apologised, suspended his account, and they promised that would be the end of it. The comments persisted, however, and it wasn't just happening on Instagram. It was happening on every one of my social accounts. Somebody was tormenting me. Maybe one of Edward's deranged relatives who blamed me for his untimely death. I told the police, and they promised to conduct a thorough investigation. Yeah, right, I thought. The cyber harassment had stirred some of the old trauma and fear in my mind. But I was resilient. Nobody had the power to scare me as much as Edward, and Edward was dead. Some idiot with a vile vendetta was using his account. That had to be it. But something happened a week ago. Something that defied all rational explanation, and filled me with dread unlike any I've ever experienced. One night, I was lying in bed, and a ping from my laptop startled me. It was open on my desk, less than a foot from the end of my bed. I certainly hadn't left it open. And I hadn't left it on Facebook. Who even uses Facebook anymore? The screen was scrolling by itself. Somebody's hacked my computer. That was my first thought. The mystery hacker was looking at Edward's profile. The scrolling stopped, and I found myself staring at an old photo of Edward and me at a party. It was from the early days of our relationship. We looked happy. Yeah, I get it, Ryan, I murmured, assuming Edward's brother to be behind the cyber torture. It's my fault that he's dead. Okay, fine. You've made your point. And then the photo moved. To be more specific, Edward moved. Everything and everyone else in that picture remained static, but Edward, suddenly untethered, strolled over to the photographer. Mouth wide, he was digesting every square inch of the full-screen photo. My deceased ex-boyfriend was staring through the laptop screen. Staring at me. What is this? I cried breathlessly. I wasn't even sure how it was possible to override Facebook in that way. It's Ryan. It has to be Ryan. No, that didn't explain how he doctored an old photograph to include a moving video of Edward. Deepfake technology? AI? I wondered. Hello, Natasha, Edward said. His voice was garbled, as if the dead man were swirling in a blender. My chest tightened. Did Edward record himself to torment me from beyond the grave? I wondered. You look so beautiful, his inhuman voice gushed. I like your new hair, Natasha. And the dog pajamas are adorable. I yelped quietly. It wasn't a pre-recording. How would he have known that I would change my hairstyle? How would he have known about the new pajamas? No, Ryan. It has to be Ryan. He's watching me through the webcam. What happened next, however, couldn't be attributed to Ryan. Edward's demeanour shifted. As had been the case in our 6-month relationship, he swiftly transformed into a villain. His pixelated head tilted to one side, as if he were simply ogling me from a fresh angle. Edward's smile had only changed ever so slightly, but it was brimming with a malignant energy. The dead man's charm was vanishing. So were his pupils, and seconds later, all that remained were 2 white, soulless eyes. It felt as if I were seeing the real Edward at long last. The subhuman thing that lay dormant beneath his scintillating shell. A thunderous thud sent a shockwave through my body. I watched Edward's hands pressing against the screen of my laptop. As if he were trapped underwater, he continued to push against the surface of the pixelated pool. The screen continued to flex. I finally accepted that it wasn't Ryan. It wasn't anything that could be explained by earthly logic. I wasn't going to wait for my undead abuser. Never again. I scarpered from my bed, running towards the door of my room. Before managing to escape, there was a blinding flash of light from my laptop screen. The door swung shut, and a piercing sound emitted from the speakers of my laptop. It sounded like a ghastly cry of agony.
"You're not leaving me again,"
Edward commanded. I rotated to face the digital entity that was slithering free from my laptop screen. My laptop screen, which was stretching around him like elasticated rubber. When he finally fled his digital prison, Edward's long limbs glitched ghoulishly before me. He adjusted his posture, standing upright and gazing with white, empty eyes. My stalking spectre widened his fiendish Cheshire cat grin.
"I found a way to live forever, Natasha,"
he whispered.
"If you join me, I promise we won't ever fight again."
I tirelessly battled to open my bedroom door, which was being held shut by an invisible force. Twisting my head to look at the creature behind me, I whimpered in horror. Edward slowly stumbled towards me, on unsteady, glitching legs, toppling his head to one side. I screeched at the top of my lungs and turned to face the door, desperately yanking the handle. That was when I had a dreadful idea. I darted towards my bedside table, swerving past Edward's outstretched arms. Picking up a half-full glass of water in one hand, I turned to face my ex-boyfriend. His lips parted, and a pit of blackness was revealed. That same high-pitched wail erupted from the caverns of his demonic body. He knew what I was about to do. Without a moment's thought, I launched the glass of water at the cyber ghoul that was lumbering towards me. Edward screamed in a robotic wail so deafeningly loud that my ears popped. As the water soaked through his shimmering translucent skin, he began to spasm manically. Edward's unbound digital form retreated, and I watched the laptop screen reclaim him. My bedroom door swung open, so I assumed my undead stalker must simply have been too distracted to keep me trapped. I seized my opportunity and fled the flat. I've been living in my car for the past few days. This is the first time I've used technology since the incident. I'm currently in a computer cafe. There are plenty of people around, and I don't think Edward would come for me in a public place. But who knows? I wanted to share my story online because I need help. I don't know where to go or what to do. I have nightmares of Edward's eternal digital prison. I keep seeing flickering screens in the corner of my eye. Should I get off the grid and avoid technology for the rest of my life? I won't be able to run from him. Edward is everywhere.